Hello everyone. Welcome to the another episode of Sacred Balance by Osh Wellness. I'm Shruti, a mother of two and the founder of Osh Wellness. Sacred Balance is all about bringing ancient Ayurvedic wisdom along with modern science to make you feel your best. And today we are here with a very important guest and a very, very good friend I've been knowing for a long. She's been helping us a lot to promote Osh Wellness and a true believer in us, which we really appreciate. And so we have Tara with us, and Tara is an FNP and also has her own practice, which I will let her talk about more. So I'm going to just give it over to Tara right now.
Hi, thanks so much for having me. I love your product. If people are listening and they're patients of ours, they know how much we love Osh Wellness too, and personal user of it. So yeah, love that I get to share more about my journey and all things endo today.
Thanks. Yes, all thing Endo today. This is what we have been meaning to talk about in this podcast and also get the information out there because Endo is more complicated than the way doctors put it. And you having your own journey in it helps people to understand it a little better. Before we go deep dive into Endo, I would love for people to just know a little bit about you and your background, if you can.
Yeah, so I am born and raised living in North Dakota. I know that's bizarre, like who the heck would live here, but truly it's a great state, so shout out to that. I actually started my nurse practitioner journey working in rural healthcare. I was born and raised in a town of 900 people, and I went back, very small, and I went back and worked there for almost 10 years. And I always say my career in medicine started there. I was an ambulance driver in high school and have always been just really into the medical field. And I went back and worked there for 10 years. But during my time serving my hometown in rural North Dakota, I was going through my own medical experience as a patient. And there was nothing more confusing than going through diagnoses that I wasn't really getting answers for with my cycles and infertility, where I was told I had unexplained infertility while being a healthcare provider. And so that's kind of where it started. And it actually, when I was going through my infertility journey, I started my own nonprofit so I went through, fast forward through a whole story, but I went through IVF eventually with Unexplained. I'm air quoting that. As you know, I think that's a garbage diagnosis. Yeah. And did IVF. I had a bleed at 32 weeks where I actually was helicopter life flighted woke up bleeding at 32 weeks, no answers again, like unexplained, not sure, it quit. We have no clue why this happened. So I was like, no answer after no answer after no answer. And I just couldn't wrap my head around that. So thankfully, my son was born. He's great. He's a thriving 7-year-old now. But I remember holding him at 6 weeks and I was like, what did I just go through? Like financially, I had no insurance coverage. Mentally, I did not share my journey. You would not know that now looking at my story. I was very quiet, very silent, didn't share that I had a miscarriage and that I was going through infertility. And I was like, there was no support and no help along the way. And so I had started North Dakota's first and only nonprofit, Everlasting Hope, just to be a support group and provide eventually we led to having a licensed counselor and some care packages and grants to offset the medical expense. So that's kind of where it all started. And then I realized there was more of a calling as a nurse practitioner that I needed to follow. And I was in my basement, still working in rural North Dakota, and I started a telemedicine business serving women in fertility, and it's really just blown up. That was in 2020. I get those years confused. That was like the year of Blair. It was like 2021, something like that. That spring, I finally had started it. The planning started in 2020. I'd started a fertility coaching business. So I was a coach in 2020, and then I went into the medical side of it and got licensed in 3 states in 2021. And as of today, May of 2025, within the last 15 months, I've hired 10 providers on. Wow. And we are in-person telemedicine in 5 states. And we've grown to be infertility, women's health, pediatrics, mental health, men's health. You could consider us a private practice, but We really excel in advanced like fertility up until the point of IVF. We really believe that the patient gets to be in full control of their health care. We blend Eastern and Western. We understand both sides of medicine. My providers all have advanced training in HRT and just really able to serve the patient as a whole picture. And bringing in mental health. My mental health provider was the first individual that I hired because I really just saw this need in infertility and women's health to really serve the mental health piece too. So it's really, in my journey, I thought it was kind of, done, but then I'm back as of today, back in the IVF patient space again, and in a whole nother journey going through that as well. So it's really just kind of come full circle if I look at the last 5 years of where it's gone and where it's been, and I'm back at it.
Oh my goodness, that's some journey, Tara. No, I've known you so long, but I haven't heard this side of the story ever. And I'm fortunate that you tried to share this. You are willing to share this with me today. And I would say two things. I heard this, and the first thing came in my mind is obviously a fighter, which all us women are. We are much more stronger than our counter species. But at the same time, you actually created a village for the village. You ended up creating a village for the village. So you lived in a small place, and you didn't think as only a business opportunity, but you also think it from the angle of providing help to people, and you got everything together, which is amazing. So hats off to you, Tara.
Thank you.
And I'm going to go back and talk about a bit of your early journey when you said that it took 32 weeks, you woke up bleeding and nobody has an idea. A doctor didn't know that you have an irregular period. If you had that, I would love to know that. And there's more care and support you need during pregnancy because it itself starts with at a point where it's not 100% in terms of your uterus health. And I've been meaning to bring this awareness to people that obviously period is our first starting point for everything, which unfortunately, and it starts as early as 20-year-old when you start having your period, irregularity, their consistency, their weak, like the way they cramp you, the way they make you feel, defines a lot in your reproductive life. And having a choice to have a kid or not is secondary, but having a healthier reproductive cycle, even if you don't want to have kids, takes you a long way because unfortunately, we don't stop bleeding till 55. So it's a part of our lives. Even if we choose not to, we will bleed maybe once in 3 months, once in a month, but it's going to be there. So I would like to know how, as a growing up, did you feel your periods were off? Were you aware of few symptoms? Did somebody talk to you about these things?
Yes, you had so many good points. And no, my answer is like no one had the conversation with me. And it wasn't actually until, it was probably in the last 10 years, my mom goes, yeah, I used to wear 2 tampons at one time in high school. And I'm like, seriously? You didn't think that I should know that information as I was going through infertility? This would have been like a helpful piece. So once we got talking, there's a lot of red flags that a thorough history or intake of asking my mom, but asking myself. I remember being in PE class or FIA class, and like I'd want to sit out all the time. And I was like, the ibuprofen, it didn't work good. I was the one that was slapped on birth control pretty quickly. At age 16, that was like my journey too. It was like, oh, you have some aches and pains with your period. Here's your birth control. And so for a long time, it was decently controlled. Now, my sophomore year of college, I actually had a laparoscopic procedure, but it was for a cyst. They put me on 3 different birth controls, and I had a golf ball sized cyst that they had to go in and surgically take care of. Well, fast forward, that was the same facility where I went to the OBGYN to say, hey, I had a miscarriage. I'm not conceiving. What's going on? No answer. Let's just keep doing some things. And that was where my first medical gaslighting experience happened too, was with a different provider from my routine OB at that time. I was like, I had a miscarriage. 3 months has went by, nothing's happening, what's going on? And she's like, well, when you're crazy enough, you can let me know, and we can start IUI, but you don't have to drive all the way to town for that. Well, at the time I was 2 hours away, and I was like, yeah, duh, I know, like what? And I said to her, well, little do you know I'm already in counseling. And so, and I called my OB, and she's like, you're done. I'm going to send you to reproductive health. I don't want you to have to, go through that anymore. But nowhere in that intake of 2 years did anyone mention endometriosis to me.
Yep.
So that was in 2007. In 2024, I had excision surgery. And he's like, do you have pictures from that procedure? I said, you know what? I actually think I do. So I went digging in my basement, and I have a shoebox, really like a Doc Martin shoebox, with letters from junior high and college with the gel pens, and there are my pictures. And written on those pictures is stage 2 endometriosis. And I was like,
Wow.
and it was like ablated. Why was that never relayed in the same healthcare system or put on my chart in 2007 as endometriosis? Like, it's one thing that you ablated me, fine, whatever, it's 2007, we didn't know any better, but like, it wasn't on my chart for my OB in 2016 to see. So there was a lot of like, seeing like missing pieces, but never do I recall a full intake. Tell them about your periods. How old were you when they started? Do you have pain with them? How heavy are they? Do you have clots? Like, never was a full intake done. Or like, tell me about your mom. Tell me about your aunts, your grandma. You know, there was never any conversation or a full intake. It was, oh, you're trying to conceive. It's not working. Let's do some blood work. Let's do an HSG. That's awfully painful. And then let's do an ultrasound, and that's it. Like, there was hardly any talking or conversation. So a lot of what our office does, no matter what you come in for, I'm trying to really change healthcare, whether it's women's health or fertility. Let's talk. Let's have a conversation, and let's look at a timeline, because that timeline changes a lot too, duh. But even if you do have kids, that period can change. We have that there was a study done recently that nearly 100% of teen girls who went home from school, or would have if they were allowed, is endometriosis. We know little girls with tummy issues and constipation is endometriosis until proven otherwise. There's like a lot of evolving stuff that is like 2 to 5 questions that you can just really ask, a patient right away on day 1, and start going down that irregular, or just, this isn't regular, this is not how a period should be, and start having the conversation. Let's not normalize it and just be like, well, this is just how it is. This is just normal, and here's your birth control as the only option. Girls don't want that no more. That's not what they don't want that no more. So we have to really start thinking outside the box.
No, definitely. And when you're telling me this, it kind of makes me slightly more angry also, because we stress so much more on pregnancy than we stress on leading up to it.
Yep.
And as a girl, I have been a girl. We all are like, we have gone through that stage. Getting your periods early, getting your periods weird, going to the school, living your life fully, everything gets impacted. And nobody starts to question that, okay, because I don't want to say that, but it's a man's word, but nobody asks us, should I help you to get there? Because nobody can make it regular for you, but can I provide you the support? Because you need to live this life fully, and you need to not constantly stress on your hormone being off all your life, because it starts here. And the moment you go to the doctor's office, they're like, oh, birth control pill. Let me give you this because it's available in abundance. Let's just get you on birth control pill. Ask me. I might not need it. I might need some lifestyle changes. Maybe it's as simple as just exercising every day as a woman, because our hormones are changing, and they start changing as early as 20. So get on an exercise regime. If that doesn't work, maybe food change, maybe a habit in food change, maybe your body is not responding to something. So I'm glad that you started this whole practice, because somebody has to question, especially small places and not as big as New York or maybe California, where people are being more vocal. But anywhere other than that, or maybe Florida, where people are vocal, but other than that, people need to start questioning their OBGYN when they go to the practice and they say, oh, I'm going to give you the birth control. No, tell me first what is wrong.
Why?
How can I fix it?
Yes.
Yeah. How can I fix it otherwise? All the tests should be covered within it. Like, yes, test me for everything, because I would rather get tested now than going through the whole cycle of IVF, IUI, or unexplained fertility, or going through all those cycle again and again at a very, very fragile period of my life when I want to bring a life into my life. It's not acceptable. So I've been a big promoter in talking about periods, because I've come from India. Period define your health. We have other problems, for sure. We have problems relating to how we treat periods. Periods define you. It starts early on. If your periods are off, your mother starts asking what's happening. But slowly the medical is creeping in here also. Girls have started using birth control pill. And I'm very, very sad that it's the new normal. So one thing I do want to ask you a question about. So if somebody is going with an irregular period and when is the right time to go according to you? What questions they should be asking their OBGYN? They should draw a line that I'm not going to have a birth control pill till that I have had these tested. Is there any suggestion from your end which
If
people
I
can?
had a magic wand, I would be in the middle schools and elementary schools and
Yes.
like educating them like,
Yes.
ladies, this is what to watch for. Here's some red flags. Like I would start that young. And lately I've had an influx of teens, 16, 17, 18-year-old girls in my office. So it does make me happy that we are pivoting that a little bit, but they've been miserable for years already at that age. Like they've been miserable since 11, 12, 13. So if I had a magic wand, I wish that we could reach young girls and their moms or guardians before their period starts so that they know what to expect. Because it's super scary. Whenever I ask, tell me if you remember, it's okay if you don't, how old were you when your period started? Like, oh my God, I was in softball or gym class and I bled through my white pants. Like, they have a whole story. I was at Susie's birthday party. Like, it's a very traumatic event. And I wish that we could kind of gauge it because there's usually some signs, you know, of changes happening in their body where they're like, okay, period might be starting soon. Let's be a little prepared so we're not so scared and caught off guard that it's this big scary thing, and then run to your OBGYN where their instant band-aid for you is birth control. Maybe if we had brought some supplements or vitamins or lifestyle changes or, you know, things like that in sooner, it wouldn't be this horrific experience even at onset. My next best time is when it starts. Come in right away. Let's have that conversation when it starts. If there is any concerns, let's bring mom or guardian in that might know some family history about her cycle, you know, grandmas, aunts, somebody else, some other women in the family where we can kind of say, hey, you know, let's not forget about PCOS that goes undiagnosed far too often too. Yeah. That can be just covered up and masked with birth control too. But I'm seeing this huge influx of these teens. They're all on SS anxiety and they're on very strong sleep medications like trazodone. And I cringe. I am like, okay, tell me about this. And all of those symptoms get worse before or during their period too. So now you're on a 30-day high, you know, pretty high dose of an SSRI sleep pill for issues that are only occurring before or during your period too, or are a sign of a hormone imbalance. Because a lot of times I'm like, okay, tell me about this anxiety. Like, is there something going on? Is there a situation? Because we know life happens, and then that's obviously a time. There's a time and place for those, but most of the time their answer is no. It's unexplained anxiety. I can't explain it. That to me is a sign of hormones too.
Yeah.
The other sad situation I see a lot with young girls is they're missing school. They can't get out of bed. They're crawling to the toilet, vomiting, and being told that's just normal. I'm like, absolutely not. Never should you have vomiting, such bad pain where even over-the-counter stuff isn't controlling it. Yep. Never should you have chronic pain with no injury outside of your cycle.
Yes.
Headaches or migraines before those cycles start too, large clots. Like, there's just so many red flags that were completely overlooked or dismissed. So yes, it's the amount of blood. Do you have pain with it? Do you have clots with it? But also it's like, what else? How tired? They're like, I'm so tired I can't even get out of bed. That's such a red flag. Or I have anxiety or big mood changes or shifts happening too. And it's looking at the head to toe, you know, intake of them. When does that start? Is it all the time? Is it before your period? Does it go away when your bleed starts? And watching for those symptoms and changes too.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. It's just as simple. Just because our medical system is not that evolved right now when it comes to that young in age.
Yep.
It's our responsibility as a parent, as community together to tell that girl who just got a period that, okay, go and question, go and ask, because before they put you on anything which interferes with your regular life, because as a teenager, as a young girl, what I want to do more than is living a life. I want to be out and not being back at home because I have my periods.
Right.
That never used to happen earlier. Unfortunately, it happens more now. So that's some of the great points. And I'm going to please insist to my audience who are listening to there's no harm in asking questions about your own body. And it's more than makes sense. I still ask them. I am 40-year-old and I still go to my OBGYN and I still don't accept things the way they are. I know they have the best intent, but at the same time, we should start questioning things because you know yourself better. So please go out there and ask it. So I wanted to share to you. So one of the products which I've been sharing with you is called Cycle Care. We got that product for a reason because it's meant for young girls as young as 20, because that is where they need to have those regular periods. We made that formulation very simple and very light so that they can start regulating stuff at the risk, get rid of these symptoms. Some simple problems like initially hormone imbalance, onset of PCOS can be handled if things are provided at the right time. But what we have seen is that the question is not there. Nobody understands it. They have accepted having an off period, so being normal in the off period so much that questioning it has become actually, what do you say, is like people are ignorant about it. Like, okay, I'm not going to ask. It's fine. It's fine.
Yep.
Yeah, but yeah, having said that, yes. And I'm going to touch one of the serious implications of having this kind of periods early on in life is leading towards endometriosis, which happened in your case. And unfortunately, sadly, that nobody made you aware that, yeah, you are getting pregnant and you had that history. So we should be focusing more on you than Rad. And if you are healthy, your child will itself be healthy because at the end, you are the one who's providing the womb. So like you already shared that you went to them and they said, okay, you're getting pregnant, and you were already not getting pregnant, and you didn't have that. How was your journey leading up to the pregnancy from the time you had your first miscarriage and you started again?
Very minimal interaction. It was like 1 or 2 visits over the course of a year and a half or 2 years before just sending me off to reproductive health and kind of like, sorry, nothing to do here anymore. You bring up a good point. I want to back up about like asking them. I challenge patients a lot to just say, have that provider explain why they chose that for you. Like, what is the diagnosis, or why do they think you have, the big code words they'll put is like dysmenorrhea or menorrhagia. Why?
Yeah.
Why is that happening? What is the cause of those symptoms? And really challenge them. The other thing I always ask patients, I'm like, ask that provider when the last time they went to some continuing education was on periods or fertility, or like, a lot of these providers, especially where I live, do not go to attend any continuing education and are practicing very outdated medicine. And so, yes, medicine is rapidly evolving, and yes, we know busy schedules and corporate medicine doesn't allow for that, but there is no reason a provider shouldn't be doing their continuing education in women's health on these evolving topics that are happening and be up to date on the changes that are happening in the diseases like PCOS, endometriosis, fibroids, infertility, all of that stuff. If you're going to be practicing that, then those providers need to be up to date on it. And like my clinic, I get it. We do continuing education like every month, I think. Like we are constantly doing
amazing. That's amazing.
Like they are doing certifications, and we're going to train in New York at clinics. And like, I get it. We're probably on the opposite of the spectrum. That's not possible. But I've created my practice to be like that. Yet again, I always say in order to hold a license, you have to have continuing education. So where is that gap in wanting to expand our knowledge and education on these topics, because the information is readily available with even a quick Google. But back to my story too, the longer that endometriosis is inside of you, the more damage it causes. We know that from research. Yep. And I can't help but sitting here age 39, my second time going through IVF, a failed IVF cycle with one of the top providers in the country, who says, really, I think this is due to your endometriosis on your ovaries and how long it was there. Get very mad at my past healthcare team for not even doing a thorough intake, catch this endo, or give me that word. That word endometriosis was not even thrown around at me until I did IVF. And the doc was like, I went to a whole different clinic in a different state. And he's like, I think you have endometriosis, but we'll just put you on this protocol for it. And then nothing was ever said again. So in my postpartum visits too, never was endometriosis brought up. My first period postpartum, which was 12 months later, I could not stand up. I could not physically stand up. It was Christmas. I'll never forget it. Thank God I had some leftover oxycodone from my C-section. I had to take that and sit for 20 minutes. It was the craziest thing. I could not stand up. The pain was so intense in my legs. The rectal pain, the back pain, the hip pain, and my periods all of a sudden were also, I was physically sick during them, which was a big change too from C-section. After my C-section, my cycles changed significantly. So there's a lot of changes that happened too in my health and stuff as well that were not there before having my son, to before IVF to after the C-section, that were huge red flags to watch out for. And so again, challenging your healthcare provider, but really finding that root cause of symptoms and addressing it and taking care of it, and just knowing ASAP as a young teen girl to know, hey, I was told I likely have endometriosis, haven't done the laparoscopy procedure yet, but my provider has made a clinical diagnosis of endometriosis or PCOS. But I literally get tears in my eyes when teens are in my office because I'm like, you are going to have it so much better than me or than your mom or than your, sibling did too. And then the women before you, I hope, because we have to do better. We have to start giving a root cause answer. And we have to start working on it and working on inflammation, working on hormone balancing early. We cannot wait until I'm ready to conceive now. Now let's bring something into place. So like you said, a product that they can start as early as their 20s
Yes.
to try to help with their cycles is so important to utilize and not suffer, but to really work on the issue and work on the root cause as early as possible too.
Yeah. No. We believe in that. And that's what my basis always has been, that long-term care. Nothing happens overnight. You cannot have it like the way doctors do it. Getting pregnant? Get on this. You'll be fine. There's history behind it and there's going to be history forward. Like you mentioned in your postpartum, why are you feeling so weak? There has to be no reason if it's a natural process, if you consider it to be a natural process, or put pregnancy into a medical procedure. It's not considered to be a medical procedure because people have delivery literally in developing country on the field, sitting while squatting. So it is not a medical procedure.
Yep.
So there has to be a question that if it's at one spectrum where people are delivering squatting in the field, whereas on another spectrum you are just making it so difficult for people that they cannot get up after the delivery. They don't know how to move on with their lives. I'm going a little off topic. Yes, my first postpartum visit was after 6 weeks. I'm like, wow. What am I supposed to do for 6 weeks?
Yep.
Thankfully, I had an army behind me. I come from India. There's always an army behind me. Because my mom came in, my mother-in-law came in, my sister came in. Everybody's calling me every day, how are you feeling? Are your periods back or not? Are you feeling this pain or not? They had so many questions for me and so many things they could recommend to me, which were purely natural. For first 6 weeks of my life, after there was a rebirth after my both pregnancy delivery, was so much knowledge, so knowledgeable, and that's how I came up with this company. So knowledgeable, there was so much support, so much food, and frankly, Tara, I didn't even have one medicine, and I recovered. I didn't even put an ibuprofen in my body.
Wow.
I didn't have anything for constipation, for like day one, my mom knew what to give me so that I can have regular bowel movements, and I don't have to be going on certain kind of a medication to release myself. And she had that khichdi ready for me, and she gave me 3 times a day, and she said, you're going to have your bowel movement tomorrow. And I did have it. And I had normal delivery both times after having prolonged labor and everything. So that is where our natural and system comes in place. And that's where our body, I always believe that our bodies have an innate capabilities to heal itself when given slight nudge. And we have seen that. You are sick, sleep.
Yep.
You are not tired, sleep, rest. Hydrate yourself and your body will start working itself. That's how. So yeah, that's completely off topic, but it's something we should start thinking about. There's a huge, we are just not made to make babies. We are made to make babies in the easiest possible way. That's
Right.
how it is supposed to be. And it's only us who can question it that, okay, we are ready to have babies because we are feminine. I really associate with my feminine energy, but at the same time, I need it to be easy for myself. And I wanted to bring you
good during it too, like to not feel so run down and symptomatic and a whole spiral of symptoms. It's not supposed to be like that, and it's turned into that.
And don't make me feel miserable, and also don't give me no answer to why am I feeling miserable. System has evolved so much, medical has gone so further. Give me a reason why am I feeling miserable. I'm a first-time mom.
Yeah.
So having said that, and you said you're back on the procedure of IVF and endometriosis, and you know that, touch wood, that you know way more than what you knew earlier, and hats off to you, you kind of learned it through and you took everything in your hand. And has it been different this time? Your experience, with medical, has it been better?
Yeah, so that's a great question. I really worked at changing what my healthcare team looked like so that as I did move forward, that I wouldn't be, because the last time, one piece too, I was questioning everything. I didn't trust them, because it was like unexplained, no answers. I just always had this gut feeling like, what is being missed? Like, how is this unexplained? And even as I moved on to my top clinic, I felt a little better then because at the time he was the best in the country, yada, yada. Went there. And at that point, though, I was like, just give me your brains, give me the protocol, let's go. Like, I was just very, like, run into it head first. I didn't care about causes. I was like, I want a baby yesterday. And I'd failed IUIs up at that point again. And I was at a clinic where they were, like, saying my wrong name, didn't even have the right records in front of me. It was just, like, a disaster. So this time, I really worked on prepping my team on all aspects where I had excision surgery before, and I chose one of the best in the country so that I could just trust what he did and said. Like, I didn't have to second guess anything or worry. I knew I was in good hands. And then when I moved into IVF, I also chose one of the best. And I was like, I'm paying out of pocket anyway, because yet I've been fighting for insurance coverage for 7 to 8 years, still no changes with that. So I was like, I need to go to the best in the country, trust that they have a medical records in front of them. They've reviewed them. We've had our appointments. I know she's chose the best protocol for me. And I really tried to do as much prep as I could. And I am pivoting now. So again, it just recently failed, but I'm going to be doing some different things too. But I can't help but think this whole time that what has run through my head consistently is, what if I would have known the cause of this in 2007, when I was 20 years old, and I would have started taking care of myself better, right? I would have probably done the right supplements. I could have probably slowed the progression of how I went from being told unexplained infertility, wicked postpartum recovery, to stage 4 endometriosis that was unexplained infertility, and adenomyosis found as well. Like, when my symptoms were infertility and bad cycles, my cycles were bad and then worse, postpartum, infertility. I'm not your average patient either that has a lot of the daily symptoms, and it's stage 4. So that, it's really obviously impacted my fertility, but it goes to show how unique some of these diseases are. My stage 1 and 2 patients have daily symptoms, body aches, fatigue, migraines, all sorts of daily symptoms that one may not, always put together as endo. But again, if you're up to date with endometriosis, that that's classic signs of endo. But it's really, ladies, we need to figure this out right away, because if you want kids or don't want kids, I can't have you living in pain with these symptoms your whole life. And here's some things you can do to really help with that, and giving people options. People can't just run to surgery tomorrow. That's not the realistic answer either. And they want something other than birth control to help regulate their hormones and their symptoms too. And so we have to just be aware of these options that exist too, and know what resources are out there, and provide our patients with that.
Yeah, no, makes sense. Definitely. They should, that's a good point you said, that you cannot run to the surgery every time. That's not possible. Or surgery doesn't define anything. Maybe it doesn't get 100% get you 100% fully recovered. So there are alternate ways. And we would love to know if there are any list of ingredients they should be following, they should be using. If you have anything, if you don't, that's also fine. But just if you have something which they should be consuming daily in their lives, will be good to know. Do you have any suggestions for them?
So I really look at it. I always talk about the 3 best friends in our office, and I talk about cortisol control, insulin regulation and control, and hormone regulation. And then I brought in a 4th best friend recently, because iron deficiency anemia is missed all the time too in women. Oh, heavy periods, but can't hardly get out of bed or walk up steps, and we're just going to tell a patient that that's totally fine, and it's not. But I definitely look at any ingredients. I always bring in an herbal option. Here's an herbal option. Of course, Osh Wellness is our choice, and looking at those options to bring in from an herbal, because what's great about that is it hits all 3 of them, right? If we control hormones and inflammation, we're going to control insulin, and vice versa, right? I always say if one is off, they're all off. And so we do that. We look at vitamin D levels. We do from a prescription standpoint, we use compounds a lot. And one of our favorites that we use is low dose naltrexone. It's not that invasive, really low side effects. If really inflamed or having a lot of significant symptoms, we always offer that as an option too. But it's looking at what hormones are off, balancing them, working inflammation, nutrition, movement. A lot of our patients are so tired throughout the day due to symptoms too, that we almost have to get them feeling better. I'm just go for a light walk. just do some gentle movement. You don't need to go do strenuous HIIT workouts. Just do some light walking.
Yeah.
Watch what you're putting in your body. Let's try to pivot to more protein, more of the anti-inflammatory diet. Or I don't like the word diet, nutrition, flipping the nutrition to anti-inflammatory. Sleep. How much we start with that. If you're not sleeping, well, that's going to spiral. These teens who aren't sleeping, we got to get you sleeping, and then a lot of other things can kind of come into play too.
Yeah.
And we always look at mental health. Is there something going on, or is the mental health anxiety or depression due to cortisol or hormones being imbalanced, and really working on that mood support as well. Yep. And then, of course, too, looking for any other signs or symptoms, again, headaches. Do they have chronic pain? If you have chronic pain going on, you're going to be high cortisol too, because your body is in this source of pain all the time. And so it's always just kind of going back to, how do you feel? When do these symptoms happen? Do they get worse before or during your cycle? And then adjusting their plan. And I remember when I lived and worked in rural healthcare, it wasn't always easy to get access to healthy foods all the time, or to, a lot of people have financial restraints. And so we're really like, where are you at with that? Where can we meet you with that? And really working with them as an individual too. And do you want any medication? Do you want just supplements? Gut health, that's a whole topic in itself too. But, the vaginal microbiome and gut health is a whole, I have a provider that kind of specializes in that, and send them to her. And so really just looking at where they're at, how fast or how slow do they want to go, and meeting them where they're at.
Yeah, no, makes sense. No, that's really helpful. And also I'm going to touch on the small thing which you said at the end, that yes, not everybody has an access to things. And that's what when I created this podcast, the idea is to bring information easily to people and a solution easily to people. So as you said, go for a walk, do a slight shift in your food, maybe have more whole foods, maybe have clean food. Don't go for junk. Maybe have fruits. As simple, like the simplest and the easiest fruit is banana. It's so cheap. Yep. It can do way better than having a McDonald's burger, or it can keep you fuller. I know these are we don't appreciate whole foods or things which are easily accessible to us that important, and make them that important as we make medicine important.
Yes.
I always feel, understand that you have a chronic condition. Yes, go to your doctor. I'm no way addressing that you shouldn't go to your doctor. But at the same time, supplement it with clearing your lifestyle, clearing your food style. And that's what we are saying, that and it's easier to just put your body under stress if you think things are going not fine. It's also very mental. You have to come back to a thinking where, okay, I'm going to make it fine. That has been my big belief always. So that's really good, Tara. I'm really, really thankful for you to sharing all this today, because I didn't have any agenda in my mind. I knew that you're so knowledgeable, and I had so many questions about endometriosis and genital periods, and I'm so thankful that you shared so much. Anybody who's listening to us, please, you can always reach out to me and Tara. And I usually don't talk about Osh Wellness a lot on the podcast, because this is not the idea of creating the podcast. But yes, today I'm telling you, since Tara brought so many points about using herbal medicines, I have been a constant, I've been using this in my life forever. It does help. It doesn't have any side effects, because it's food at the end. You can always stop it, and next day you'll feel better, even if it feels you a little off a day, because the only reason it will make you feel off, because you're not used to it. If you have a chronic condition too, talk to your doctor, but keep these things in your life. We have cycle care. We have support for PCOS. The reason I created a hormonal balance for women at 35 plus. I wouldn't say 39. I just said it because Tara is 39 and I'm 40. But yes, 35. But why do I create this? Because I genuinely believe that these are an easier solution for you than going ahead and just stressing and not having any answer. And at the same time, I love Tara's practice, and we have had many clients through her. Thank you, Tara, for that.
Yes.
That tells me that you're a true believer with us, and I'm really, really thankful for that again. So please go and speak to Tara. She's licensed in so many states. She will be able to tell you that better. I will be sharing her information in our podcast and wherever we are sharing it. Reach out to us. We are very quick with answers, even me. And hope you enjoyed this whole session. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks, Tara. Take care.